Rising Productions, and this is Diva Talk. I'm Mia.
I'm Karen.
And I'm Reverie.
All right. Woohoo!
Yeah, let's do this. Woo!
Second interview with Scorpio Rising Productions, Diva Talk.
I love it. Yeah. Woo!
And if you haven't seen our first episode or interview with Reverie Faye, I highly suggest you check that out. We are starting off all of our interviews with interviewing one another. But that first interview gives you a little bit of background about Scorpio Rising Productions and Diva Talk.
And I just want to say real quick, it was recommended that we change our name from Diva Talk because we're not diva enough to be Diva Talk. And I say, first of all, my life motto is I do what I want.
I love it.
As far as I'm concerned, that's Diva, and my girls do what they want to. So we do what we want, we're Diva Talk. There's your two
like Diva.
snaps in a circle.
I love it. That sounds like diva to me. We're all divas in our own right.
It's open for interpretation, right? You know, my divaness is just going to tell you what my divaness is. So
exactly.
Yes, we get to define what we want to be and what we are and who we are.
You need no man telling us what a diva is. Well, maybe.
Because it was a man. Uh-oh.
No, we are very grateful for any feedback. So, okay, but we're going to get started. We are interviewing Mia GiAngelos, and she is the author of Broken Wings, which is a book you can get on Amazon.com. She is also a life coach who focuses on relationships as well as communications. And she is also the creator of Go Love Yourself, which is on Facebook and Instagram, and is also the title of her new book. And she is a public speaker and the president of her local Toastmasters group in San Antonio, Texas, and is a victim advocate with the San Antonio Police Department. And she's also 6 years clean and sober. Wow.
Wow. I just got to say double wow. That is an amazing bio. That is incredible.
Just imagine what I could have accomplished if I hadn't wasted 2 years on a toxic relationship.
Hey, well, you know what? Look where you've come. You've come all this way, and it's just amazing. I'm so proud of you. It's incredible.
Thank you.
You really are an inspiration, Mia. So we're so happy to be interviewing you today. And I know that our topic for today is turning your pain into a purpose. And I think it's a great topic. I think many of us can speak on this, but I really think that you have a profound way of turning this around. So first I want to start with pain. Let's just talk about pain. You've experienced pain in your life. What is your pain and where did it come from?
Wow, that's a great question. I've had pain for as far back as I can remember. Now, your childhood memories generally start about age 4. And one of my first cognitive memories at age 4 was being sexually assaulted by my biological father. And then there are other, little interim memories of, my mother being emotionally unavailable and her being verbally and physically abusive. There were drugs and alcohol ran through my home. Then she met and married another pedophile who was my stepfather. He started in on me at age 5. That went on until I was almost 17 years old. I turned 17. Right before I turned 17, I moved in back with my biological father because I just had dealt with so much with my mom and my stepdad. And I moved in with him, and he ended up getting drunk one night and beating the holy crap out of me. And I went to a neighbor's house, and she discovered that in the state of Texas at 17, you could legally be responsible for yourself. And I thought, great. I don't have to go, be with either of these crazy people and deal with this stuff anymore. And I ended up sleeping under a bridge at 17 years old. And, that was a painful thing, and it was hard to go through, but I took that pain. Even at that young age, I said, I'm going to take this pain, I'm going to do something with it. And I am going to set myself in a position that I never have to be homeless again, ever in my life. I am going to work towards that goal and I'm going to do it. And on my 18th birthday, because you legally can't sign a contract in the state of Texas until you're 18. So on my 18th birthday, I signed a lease for my first apartment, and I became emancipated. I was on my own, I was independent, and I was excited. Unfortunately, I did not know how to function in a world as a healthy human being because of everything that I'd been through in my childhood. So I went through, another 20 years of toxic and abusive relationships and drug and alcohol use, trying to suppress my childhood. And it took a really long time. And I got to the point where I actually committed suicide. I actually died.
Wow.
When I say that, when I tell people all the time, I'm like, yeah, I committed suicide. They're like, oh, no, you mean you attempted suicide? No, honey. No. I died. My heart stopped beating. My lungs stopped breathing. I was dead for, I think it was a little less than a minute, but still I was dead. And,
right.
The God just was not done with me. And I came back into my body and survived that and came out the other side. And once I got over being pissed off and angry of, why couldn't you just let me die? I went, okay, maybe I should actually do something with this life. And that's how I became into the position that I'm in, where I could go through the recovery that I went through and actually turn my pain into a purpose.
It's incredible. It's an incredible story.
Oh, thank you.
That is amazing. You completely turned your life around. You wrote a book. And tell us about this book. What is it about? What is it called? What's the title? And, it must cover everything that you've talked about. Tell us a little bit more about the book.
So the book is titled Broken Wings because my wings were broken when I was really young. And it is about my life. It's about my childhood and my adulthood and all up to the moment where I died, and then coming out of that and where I went from there, how I found myself in a new situation and a new position and just discovering a new way of life. So the book actually itself got started in trauma therapy. So when I came out of all of that, I finally got to a space where I said, okay, I have to do something with this, because now keep in mind, I was sober coming out of this, but I didn't have any help. No one had directed me towards a recovery program. No one had directed me towards mental health. Now, normally when someone commits suicide, they get put into a psychiatric ward. I was not, because of the level of damage that I had done to my body. They could not find a psychiatric ward that would take me, because I had to be on dialysis every other day because I completely fried my kidneys. So they kept me in just the regular hospital for 30 days and then released me, unfortunately, to the care of my parents, which was also another bad thing. But I was doing this, basically I was white knuckling, not drinking and not drugging on my own, just out of sheer fear of what it would do to my kidneys to put any of that stuff back into my system. So that was a year and a half that I did that, until I finally got introduced to a recovery program, which then introduced me to therapy. And it was through trauma therapy, the actual writing that I did through trauma therapy, that became the outline of the book. And then at the end of my trauma therapy, they recommended that I go into support groups where I would talk with and help other women, just offer support and get support at the same time, other women that had been through the same traumas that I had been through. And when I was sitting in that support group for the first time, listening to these other women talk about their stuff, it was that first moment that I had of, wow, this is a really rampant issue in our country today. Like, this is happening all over the place to so many people, and I have to do something more than what I'm doing right now. I have to take my pain and make a purpose from it. I have to do something more. And that's when I started digging in and said, okay, I'm gonna write this book, but I want to go a step further. I want to do something more. And then eventually I became a victim advocate and started working with domestic violence and sexual violence victims. And that still wasn't enough. So I'm still steady, continuing to find what more can I do. what more can I do? But that's how the book came about. And it's about my life, the trauma that I went through, and the healing process that I discovered after. And there's more books to come because I'm still rolling through it.
This is really amazing. You know, I have to say, I've read your book 3 times, and it's so inspiring. But the thing I enjoy the most about memoirs is the fact that you tell this story, and it is painful, but the thing that touches me the most about your book is about you touching upon your childhood and how vulnerable you were. And it takes me back. And, you know, I have to tell the readers that, you know, we grew up together, actually. And I love the aspect of you bringing in all of your friendships that you had, and how when you were a child, you had these friendships and they helped get you through. That's the part that touched me the most, because you realize that there is a light in the tunnel, even that early on. And that was the thing that I really enjoyed the most. And then you have those aspects throughout the book, so it's very well rounded. And that's what I appreciated so much about Broken Wings. It's a beautiful book.
Thank you.
It is a beautiful book. And I haven't known you as long, Mia. I didn't grow up with you, but I feel like, you know, we're kind of soul sisters in a way. The short time that we've gotten to know one another. We met at an event in Los Angeles. It was
the Writers Festival, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was an event here in Los Angeles that you came to, and then later at the Shilon, which you were a part of. So we were talking about your book, which, you know, wow, what courage that took. And I am in the process of reading your book, and I'm very captivated by, you know, just how you draw in your reader immediately with what you experienced as a child. So it's interesting to me that you then went from your book, writing about trauma, into this platform, Go Love Yourself. So just tell us a little bit more about that. How did you go from Broken Wings to Go Love Yourself?
Well, as I said, I went through in my adulthood, after coming out of all of that trauma in my childhood, and just had toxic and abusive relationship after relationship. And the last one that I came out of, my ex-husband, was an aha moment for me. When that relationship was ending, when I was in my bedroom with the door locked shut, with the police on speed dial, hovering my finger over the button going, is this the moment I'm going to have to call? I was in that moment saying, how do I keep doing this? How do I keep getting myself in the same situation over and over again? What is going on? What can I do different? And I didn't know. I didn't have the answer to it, but I was ready to find the answer to it, because I had reached a point where I was just in so much pain. I knew I had to do something different. Otherwise, I was going to keep doing this over and over again. And I am a huge advocate of love. I have been searching for love since I was a child. It was absent in my childhood, and it was toxic in my adulthood. And so I've always been searching for that pure love, that real love, the love that I find with you ladies. I'm searching for this love constantly, and I keep finding the same toxic love over and over again. So I start to think, you know, what do all of my exes have in common? What's the common denominator between all of these exes? What can I pinpoint? This girl, me. What am I doing that I need to not be doing? Or what am I not doing that I need to be doing? So I decided, when that relationship ended and I finally got out of there and I got into my own space, I said, I'm going to take a period of time, and I am going to stay away from men altogether, and I'm going to date myself, and I'm going to figure out who I am. Who is Mia GiAngelos without a man? Who is she?
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Amen,
because
sister.
I never knew who I was without a man in my life. I either had a man or I was working to get a man. That was, you know, that's daddy issues. Having a hard time standing on your own, thinking that you need someone to come in and take care of you. So I said, I'm going to date myself. And I set out to do that, and I started digging in and researching into the psychology behind abusive relationships and toxic relationships and how to break that cycle and how to get out of it. And I started Go Love Yourself was a Facebook support group. I needed support while I was going through this process. And so I created Go Love Yourself as a support group on Facebook so that I could get support from other women and even some men while I was going through this process. And it just grew from there. You know, I always have that aspect. I need to do more. I need to do more. There's got to be something else I can do to help people. And in this support group, I discovered that there were so many people that were having the same struggles I was having. They were in the same pain. And that's how I decided I'm going to just build a business around this and help people as much as I can. Just help them to find a healthy love.
And that's a recent thing for you. Before we go into our next question, I just wanted to comment that this is a new thing for you to be doing this platform, Go Love Yourself, where you've turned it from a support group into now a coaching platform where you're offering workshops and you're offering coaching with individuals, or I don't know, do you do couples too?
Yeah, absolutely.
And in fact, we'll just mention, if you haven't checked out her website, goloveyourself.biz, check it in the description below. And you are offering workshops, so that's a good thing to check out if you're interested.
Absolutely. What else I think is a beautiful moment is this idea of dating yourself. This is something that you just don't hear about. And our society, you know, I know from past experience going to the movies by myself, people look at you like, where's your date? Or where's your man? What's wrong with you? Why are you going to the movies by yourself? There must be something wrong with you. And we need to change that. There is absolutely nothing wrong with spending time with yourself and getting to know yourself. And I love that aspect of what you have. And I love on your website that you have women, you know, posting selfies of them. Hey, here I am. I'm out to dinner by myself. I'm going to the movies by myself. I'm on a road trip by myself. And that is just great because we need to be in contact with ourselves. We need to know who we are as ourselves before we can get into a relationship. You have to be happy within yourself. And I love that you bring that out and you're not afraid of that because our society makes it out like that's wrong. And I love how that.
I was afraid. Hold on.
I bet you were.
This is something I get all the time is people are like, oh, you have no fear. You just do these things. And I'm like, no. Listen, I have the same fears and anxieties everybody else has. And the first time I took myself out to dinner, I can remember I took myself to Olive Garden. Because I thought, well, that was you remember, Rev, when we were growing up, Olive Garden was like a fancy, romantic place that you went to. Oh, God, I just roll my eyes at the thought of that. Now it's like, okay, free breadsticks and endless salad. Thank you very much. But the point is, I said, well, Olive Garden was my favorite restaurant before any man started influencing me on what I should think is a good restaurant or shouldn't think is a good restaurant. And so that's where I took myself. And I can remember sitting there just absolutely terrified and anxious. And I had to fight with myself not to pick up my phone and disappear into my phone because that's a really easy thing to do. And it will completely negate the experience of actually dating yourself. But I was terrified at first. I had to do it over and over and over again to get comfortable with it.
And I love that. I love that you're comfortable with yourself now. I love that.
I actually might be a little too comfortable with myself now because sometimes I'm just like, I'll think about, I'm going to go somewhere and a date will ask me if I get asked out on a date, he'll be like, well, what do you think about going here? And I'm kind of like, I think I want to go by myself.
I love that. Actually, I'll date myself and go there with myself. Thank you very much.
Now, let me check it out on my own first, and then maybe I'll take you along.
I mean, we really touch on, I know we're kind of like, I think you organically answered the question that Reverie was going to ask, which is how you took it from a support group to a relationship coach. But I did want to touch on one of the things that you said about, this individuality, like who are we outside of our spouse, outside of our partner, outside of our parents, our sisters, our siblings, finding that person that you are so that you can know what your voice is and what you stand for and what you like and what you don't like. If you like breadsticks and salad, or if you want sushi and, sake, or
a steak.
Or a steak.
Give the girl a steak.
I mean, and maybe metaphorically that applies to the person you eventually date.
Yeah, and also
I want a steak.
I want a steak.
If you're attached to your
sorry.
That's okay. Oh, no, what I was going to say was, if you're out on your own and you're attached to your phone, how are you going to be able to go out on a date without consulting your phone? You have to be completely comfortable within yourself before you can really commit to somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how did you go from working in support groups to becoming a relationship coach? Where was I'm going to use a Karen word, where was the segue with that? How did you segue into becoming a relationship coach?
Well, the segue was actually quarantine.
Oh, really?
I never even had considered, I had considered it. I had wanted to make it a business. I just didn't know how. And, as I'm sure most people who are out there trying to figure out what they want to do with their life and are struggling to start a business, it's hard to figure out how to do it or how to make it work or how to make money doing what you love. And I struggled with it for the longest time there before my job ended. I was like, am I really going to charge people for help that I would want? And, what if they can't afford it? Which, I will offer scholarships for certain situations. I will offer, large discounts for people that are genuinely in need and who really want to do the work. But the point is, I thought, can I really do this? And the more that I worked with people free, that's what I saw. I wasn't seeing big changes in them. And then quarantine happened and I lost my job. And I said, okay, let me see if I can do this. So I ended up taking on a client. I found her through Facebook and I took her on. And within a month, she was a completely different person. And she was paying me. And within a month, she was a completely different person. And when I recognized that, I was like, okay, this is why I need to be charging, because when somebody pays for something, they're more committed to it.
Yeah, they get a commitment to themselves.
Right. And they get my commitment so that I'm not distracted by, a 9-to-5 job, and I'm able to really focus in and hone in on what's going on with them and help them through their struggles. So it was, thank you, COVID. COVID's been a really difficult, tumultuous relationship. It's a toxic relationship. Let's call that what it is. COVID-19 is a toxic relationship, and yeah, we need to get rid of it quickly. But it did help me come to this space where it was like, this is my passion. This is what I need to be doing, and it propelled me.
Well, again, I'm sorry to cut into there, but it's the whole thing of what we're talking about, turning your pain into a purpose. Many of us are dealing with painful things during the pandemic, and yet, I just think it's remarkable how you can turn something like that around, and especially so quickly, and to be so, kind of inventive with your platform and how to reach more people, which is just, it's very inspiring. And you performed at our Shilon, and
yes.
You wouldn't know it. You would not know it by these diva talks that Mia was kind of a little nervous about performing for that.
Nervous is an understatement. I thought I was going to pee my pants. It was terrifying.
But you did such a great job. You read a segment of your book that you're working on, Go Love Yourself. And, I just think that you have really become more natural and comfortable in front of the camera with all of your videos and your workshops that you're doing. You definitely seem so much more at ease. So, and I just want to know how that, I know that Toastmasters played a part of that, but, why did you take Toastmasters, and where do you see yourself going with being in front of the camera and presenting yourself with what you have to say in your platform?
Well, after coming off of that stage and coming back from Los Angeles, you know, the big city where people do these performances and do these things on the regular. So that was probably just another day to the two of you. To me, that was an experience, and it was terrifying, and it was also exhilarating at the same time, because it was the first time that I stood up on a stage and I used my voice for a positive outcome. And I said, I have to do this again. I have to do it again. But how the hell can I do it again and not pee my pants?
I did not see you as being nervous at all. I have to say, you got up on stage and you owned it. You rocked it.
What was the line? You said, I will Elizabeth Taylor my way out of this life. I loved that line. You got such a great laugh.
I refuse to give up on the idea of someone else loving me wholly. So I will Elizabeth Taylor my way through this life if I have to.
And I meant it. And I will. I'll get married as many times as the state of Texas will allow me. And when that cuts off, I'll go to another state if I have to.
You know what I loved about that line is that we had a few millennials that were performing with us, and both of them came up to me and they were like, what does she mean about Elizabeth Taylor? And I thought, oh my God,
who's Elizabeth Taylor?
to explain this. I have to explain who Elizabeth Taylor is.
Elizabeth Taylor. She had like 9 husbands. One she married twice. I will not be marrying any of my previous husbands a second time so far, but you know,
good for you.
That could happen. You never know.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, anyway, back to your question. So I came out of that and said, I have to do something to improve my stage calmness. Obviously, I guess not my stage presence, because, you know, you two ladies thought that I was great, but I was not. I was a disaster and a mess. And so I discovered Toastmasters. And when I joined Toastmasters, which by the way is way more than public speaking, it's taught me leadership. It's helped me actually form my business and grow my business. The network and the things that I've learned in Toastmasters has helped me create my business as a whole. And then I went to competition, the speech competition. And I joined Toastmasters in October of 2019, and I competed in March and April of 2020. So it's just like 5 months, 6 months that I had been in Toastmasters. And I won area, and then I won division.
Woohoo!
Division, yeah. I got 3rd place in division. But I was happy to have gotten 3rd place in division because I beat someone who had been doing this for 12 years.
That is astounding.
And I thought, if I can do that, I feel like I can do anything. So I'm super excited to compete again. I want to compete in the Toastmasters competition in 2021. And it's my ultimate goal to get on a TED Talk. I just want to reach the masses. I really do.
I'm just so very, very proud of you. I'm so excited about your book and your business and everything that you've got going for you. You've really turned your life around. And, you know, a lot of people, especially right now, are struggling in relationships. And I'm just wondering, you know, what kind of advice would you give to someone who's struggling in relationships?
Well, that's a really good question. First of all, all relationship issues boil down to communication. And it's not just about how you're communicating with your partner, but how you're communicating with yourself. So you have to look inward to see what is your part in it, because everybody plays a part in it. If there's a relationship problem, it's not just one person that's failing at this communication or whatever the issue is. It's both people. It takes 2 to tango. You know, you can't do it alone. And especially if you're feeling like you're doing it alone, you really need my help, because I've been there. Trust me. But the point is, I would say, focus in on what you're doing and what you can adjust in yourself. How are you talking to yourself? How are you communicating with yourself? Because that's the most important thing. And when you have conflict in communication with another person, it's generally the narrative you're telling yourself in your head. So for example, for the longest time, I struggled with getting people to hear me, because I thought I needed to be loud and dominant and assertive, or aggressive, not assertive, aggressive, in order to get people to hear me. And what I didn't know was that I was telling myself that people couldn't hear me unless I was communicating in that way. And what I needed to learn to do was listen. Believe it or not, the key to great communication is being able to listen, to actively listen to someone, and really just kind of shut that voice off in your head that's telling you what you think they're saying, or that's changing your perception because you have your own emotions and feelings behind it. You've got to just take in their words. And it's the same thing you do. Like, I have a friend who was reading a text message to me one day, and he was like, oh my God, let me tell you what this guy said to me. And he started reading it, and he was reading it like this. Like, he had the tone and the attitude behind what he was reading. And I was hearing the words from this text message. So I told him, I said, stop reading it with your tone that you're reading it with. Go back and read it like in the voice of a 7-year-old child. And when he did that, wow, he was like, oh my God, okay, I can actually hear the love coming from this person. And that's all it was. That person was just directing love and concern for his friend, and the friend couldn't receive it because the friend had his own ideas of where this person was coming from. So most relationship issues all come from communication and how you're communicating with yourself. So change the narrative in your voice, in your head, change the tone that you're receiving information. Because you can do that. Even if somebody's coming at you with a tone, I've learned to do this myself, and I can teach other people how to do it. When somebody's coming at you with a tone, you can learn to be in your head and coach yourself and say, okay, let me hear the words that are saying and not the tone, because tone is the emotion. And you've got to be able to take the emotion out of what somebody's saying in order to actually hear their words and receive their words. So that's the advice I would give to people that are struggling today, is just change the way you're giving and receiving your communication.
And Mia, thank you so much for allowing us to listen to your story. Thank you for talking about your pain and how you've turned it around into a purpose, and a valuable purpose at that. And we just really are so grateful to have you be a part of Scorpio Rising Productions and our Diva Talk.
Yeah, thank you so much. Love you. Mwah.
Love you. And remember, go find love. Don't ever give up on love. Just change what you're looking for.
And remember,
go Liz Taylor.
Remember, ladies, unify and rise up.
Unify and rise up.
Unify and rise up.
Thank you for joining us. Stay tuned for our next Diva Talk, where we interview another fabulous guest.